There was once a boy named Milo who didn't know what to do with himself. Not just sometimes, but always. When he was in school, he longed to be out. And when he was out, he longed to be in. On the way, he thought about coming home. And coming home, he thought about going. Wherever he was, he wished he were somewhere else, and when he got there, he wondered why he'd bothered. Nothing really interested him, least of all the things that should have. "It seems to me that almost everything is a waste of time," he remarked one day as he walked dejectedly home from school. "I can't see the point in learning to solve useless problems, or subtracting turnips from turnips, or knowing where Ethiopia is, or how to spell February." And since no one bothered to explain otherwise, he regarded the process of seeking knowledge as the greatest waste of time of all. The Empire Grill was long and low-slung, with windows that ran its entire length. And since the building next door, a Rexall drugstore, had been condemned and razed, it was now possible to sit at the lunch counter and see straight down Empire Avenue, all the way to the old textile mill and its adjacent shirt factory. Both had been abandoned now for the better part of 2 decades, though their dark, looming shapes at the foot of the avenue's gentle incline continued to draw the eye. Of course, nothing prevented a person from looking up Empire Avenue in the other direction, but Miles Roby, the proprietor of the restaurant and its eventual owner, he hoped, had long noted that his customers rarely did. Once our father bought a convertible. Don't ask me, I was 5. He bought it and drove it home as casually as he'd bring a gallon of Rocky Road. Picture our mother's surprise. She kept rubber bands on the doorknobs. She washed old plastic bags and hung them on the line to dry. A string of thrifty, tame jellyfish floating in the sun. Imagine her scrubbing the cheese smell out of a plastic bag on its 3rd or 4th go-around when our father pulls up in a Chevy convertible. Used, but nevertheless. A moving metal landscape. Chrome bumpers and what looks like acres of molded silver car flesh. George Washington Crosby began to hallucinate 8 days before he died. From the rented hospital bed placed in the middle of his own living room, he saw insects running in and out of imaginary cracks in the ceiling plaster. The panes in the windows, once snugly pointed and glazed, stood loose in their sashes. The next stiff breeze would topple them all, and they would flop onto the heads of his family, who sat on the couch and the love seat and the kitchen chairs his wife had brought in to accommodate everyone. The torrent of panes would drive everyone from the room. His grandchildren in from Kansas and Atlanta and Seattle, his sister in from Florida, and he would be marooned on his bed in a moat of shattered glass. Pollen and sparrows, rain, and the intrepid squirrels he had spent half of his life keeping out of the bird feeders would breach the house. There was once a little man called Niggle, who had a long journey to make. He did not want to go. Indeed, the whole idea was distasteful to him. But he could not get out of it. He knew he would have to start sometime, but he did not hurry with his preparations. Niggle was a painter, not a very successful one, partly because he had many other things to do. Most of these things he thought were a nuisance, but he did them fairly well when he could not get out of them, which, in his opinion, was far too often.